So is this the last pod of 2024, 2025? No, I had that on Saturday. We had that on Saturday after the Hibs game at Easter Road. But it can't be the first pod of 2025, 2026 because we're not there yet. Maybe the first pod of the close season. No, it doesn't even feel like that's appropriate. It's more like a kind of postscript or an epilogue. An epilogue. Remember Streets of San Francisco? They had the prologue and then the epilogue. It'd be a Quinn Martin production. The Streets of San Francisco 49ers Enterprises. That's what we've got here. I'll be Callum Walden. That's an insult to that man. A very fit man, Callum Walden. Michael Douglas, he's starting the Streets of San Francisco. I'm certainly not going to be any kind of Michael Douglas here, but I will just do a wee. It's like a postscript, and I need to clear the decks here because the club obviously aren't messing about. That is Barry gone within 24 hours of his last match. An announcement about the manager, the new manager, is probably going to be imminent, so need to get this all tidied up for you. It's maybe even a chance to have that fabled 30 minutes podcast we're talking about. This is how you doing, folks? Your fat egg Barry Ferguson has left the building, as long as you understand that building is Auchenhowie, because he's actually going to stay on, it seems, as a club ambassador, so he'll be at Ibrox. He hasn't really left that building, but he's left his post as Rangers interim head coach, which is what he was expected to do when the season was over. That was the deal, really, it seemed, as far as the club were concerned, on the 24th of February when he took the position. So the only kind of newsworthy aspect of this is the fact that we now officially know Barry will not be Rangers manager. Barry Ferguson will not be Rangers manager next season. Him, Alan McGregor, Neil McCann, and Billy Dodds, the team he put together, his backroom team that he put together, they've all been relieved of their duties as the Rangers management team, as they were expected to do. They've not been sacked, just come to the end of what was agreed, the contract that was agreed, from the 3-month contract that was agreed when they took the position. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet last night, or check out two-thirds of it, or two-thirds of the people on it. The Sunday night flagship show. It was two lovely guys, Rob and Ross. Watch them. Just fast forward through the other guy who was just rotten. This kind of 24 stone baldy Wazzock who could neither shut up nor make any sense. And at one point spent a full 15 minutes straight defending the officials at Easter Road on Saturday, who, given reasons as to why he thought they didn't give that goal that should have put Rangers 2-0 up. And this is why they keep dropping me. This is why I can't get back into the Jersnet first team. I mean, anytime I do get a chance, I just perform absolutely terribly, and I can't get my place back. And I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you. Emotionally drained me. And so I was trying to say Jurio on Saturday there. That's the end of the season. Just felt really emotional. Getting a bit emotional. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning into the pod all season. And you're getting back to me, but even nicer posts that underneath that podcast. It's all getting a lot of thank you. I'm still trying to reply to everybody. I'm still trying to get a personal reply to everybody who get back to us in the reaction. The feedback to the post-match reaction pod. It's just talking emotionally. So I'm drained. I'm absolutely drained. And it gets to the point last night when I'm going to this, it's 9:30 just now. That's too late for me now. A Sunday night, 9:30. I mean, come on. So I'm tired at the best of times, but I'm emotionally drained as well. It's been a long, hard season. I've a hard 24 hours dealing with this emotional roller coaster with you guys. And I find myself thinking I'm defending. It sounds like I'm defending the officials here. I'm defending Nick Walsh, the linesman, the VAR, why they couldn't say that the ball was over the line. And I know that there'll be folk thinking, what kind of Rangers supporter would say that? So I start going down the whole route of, well, I actually think we're better Rangers supporters if we stick up for the officials, because we don't want to be like, Celtic in the way they just totally attack football. They will destroy the sport if they haven't, if they haven't won a game. And Rob's saying, well, I don't think we're trying to destroy the sport. And I was like, no, I'm not saying that we are doing that. I think that it looks like we're going to start doing that, because I can't be nasty even if it comes to referees and all that. I think there's no football without referees, but I mean, Oliver Glasner. Look at Oliver Glasner, right? I've hated that guy for 3 years. The one person I do come out and openly say, hate him. He's just a a coward. I call Eintracht Frankfurt cowards. I call Ange Postecoglou. I call his Celtic team of 2020. It's basically it's 2 years and 364 days that I was just hating, irrationally hating Oliver Glasner because his Eintracht Frankfurt team, I think they won 2 domestic games in the whole of that half of the season, the post-Christmas half of the 2021-2022 season. And obviously Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, who denied us the league title, they end up, they're crapping out of Europe as far as I saw it. So I've been just like, every time Oliver Glasner comes on the telly, manager of Crystal Palace over the last couple of seasons, I've been like, I see that's him, that's all, I can't even be bothered with him. He absolutely crapped to it. All right, okay, my wife's going, what's he talking about now? But then I just caught a wee bit on Saturday. I caught a wee magazine item on the telly on Saturday, build up to the FA Cup final, and it was talking about Oliver Glasner and how his playing career came to an end with about a concussion and an aerial duel. And then the next day, he was just found he'd passed out. He's practically in a coma, and it took him like a year to get back, just his ability to speak and walk and stuff like that. And I'm like, I've been slagging that guy saying he's a coward for the most, and he's one of the bravest guys in the face of the earth. So that's why I'm always really careful when it comes to, I mean, like Craig White, when I do it, I was like, he is just a cowboy and a crook and an asset stripper. It's pretty obvious. There's sometimes you just have to call it out, but I like to make sure I've get rid of every possibility for that. So I basically spent so long trying to explain to Rob what I meant about I went 15 minutes straight. I'm not used to working with other folk. That's the problem. I did these podcasts too much, but it's just myself. So I'm actually lost the ability to talk to other folk on podcasts. I talk to other folk in real life and that like a normal person, but just when it comes to the podcast thing, I'm just, I need to tell you, I mean, I need to qualify. I've got so much to say about Rangers, but what happened was my podcasting hammy went because I just overextended myself. And that, a bit like Kevin Thompson, when he used to do that thing where he would hyperextend his leg and into tackles because and you're worried for him every time, and it went. So like when Ross and Rob finally got a word in edgewise again for 5-10 minutes, and Rob, who's hosting, comes back to me and asks me the next question on his agenda, which is Nico Raskin. Like, what do you think about the season he's had? I'm like, Nico Raskin, he's Belgian. Belgian, you get the waffles and the moule frites and Tintin and scored some goals. And Nico. Right, that's fine. Thanks very much. We'll go back to Ross and just ask him what he thinks about Nico. I'd gone completely. It was too much, and then so. Please stick by Jersey. Go back on. Don't worry, I'll not be back on it anytime soon. They're going to have another podcast on Thursday, I think, a review of the season, but I'll not be anywhere near Oliver Glasner yesterday. Yesterday, of course, was 3 years to the day that Joe Aribo, who was playing at Goodison in the last match, the men's team will play at Goodison, Everton. Archibald Leach stand, the blue and white. The associations are there, and Joe Aribo is there playing for a relegated Southampton team 3 years today after he's scoring for Rangers in a European final, and the day before Oliver Glasner's getting his next major trophy. 2 years and 364 days after what he did fair and square. Beating Rangers is no mean feat. What a great guy. My apologies to Oliver Glasner, and congratulations to him and Crystal Palace. So yeah, I'm sponsored by Jersnet, and I'm also sponsored by folk who come straight back to their job like a couple of months after they've left it. We've had the big night out for them. You have the whip round, you get the present and all that, and you all go out together. Sometimes folk, you work together so long, you get on so well, you'll bring your partner along and they'll bring their wife or something along to the night out, and that you're all getting drunk together and recalling the good times. There's massive present. Folk have got them vouchers and flowers and all this stuff and some joke presents because you know what he's like. And then you all get drunk and get at the end of the night, you're just mate, it's big hugs now, and everybody's kind of greeting a wee bit, and like I don't actually have a brother. I don't have a brother either, Dave. I don't have a brother either. We've been you're my brother. You are my brother. And then they go and maybe when they get outside, they'll realise they forgot their jacket, and they'll have to come back in, just to get their jacket. Right, all right, so that jacket there, Dave. Aye, bruv. In a way, it's quite kind of awkward. Or they'll do that thing where they'll come along. The promises they make at the end. When we're all pissed and you're leaving your job after a few years. I'll be along every night out. See, every night out you have, you better phone me. Don't worry, you're not getting away with you're coming back. I'll be phoning you. I'll be first. You'll be getting around then, mate. Don't you stomach. But then the day come back to all the nights out at your place after, about a year, 2 years after they've left, and you're thinking, do you not make any pals at your new place? Is it no? But when they're really expecting you kind of, you kind of out the loop kind of thing, you know. Or they'll do that thing where they actually don't like the new job and they'll come back to the job and it's like, oh, it's great to see you back because, no, obviously we're tight and all that. No, we declared our love for each other, but you're back already. The job didn't work out. You're kind of, aye, so what about the present we got you? There was a lot of money folk put in, but I just hang on to that. I suppose that kind of, you know, it's a bit like that. A guy's done a podcast and he's got a really emotional on the Saturday saying, you know, jury on, that's the season's done, mate. Now I'm needing a summer holiday. You've been needing a summer holiday, and then next, it's 2 nights later, he's back doing another pod. And that's how Rangers are moving just now. They're just moving so quick that comment is required on these kind of major news items. It's no my fault. It's like, but it's a bit like Goodison Park. You know, all the journalists, TV journalists, broadsheets, everybody, you know, vloggers and that, doing these emotional, deeply emotional, quite right. It's an amazing stadium, Goodison Park, an amazing location. Britain's first double tier on 4 sides, no, 2 tiers, 4 sides stadium. I've been there. I've been in the Park End. I've only been to Goodison once. I was in the Park End playing Chelsea in the FA Cup. It was a one each draw game. Went to a replay. Around about 2007, 2008. I've done a lot of football that season. But I was in the Park End, which was great because I was sitting looking at the 3 other more historic sides. But I always wanted to go back and get into the Gladys Street end, the top or bottom of it, or getting the Bullens in particular. You know, the actual proper Archibald Leake stuff. But that's never got. But now the women's team are going to stay on and play. And I'm thinking, great, I can go back down and, you know, a women's game. Maybe it'll just be enough of a crowd that they'll have to open the Bullens or the Gladys Street as well as the main stand, and I'll get to go in and they'll be doing tours, probably still doing tours of. So I'll get to go and do the, you know, get to see. I've seen a game at Goodison already. I've got that under the hat. Now I can go and just get into the various bits of the bits of the ground. It's really historic ground. I'm looking forward to that. But all the folk that have written all these put together Sky Sports, putting together these massive kind of montages of families that be going to Goodison doing the generations. The same as I'd be if it was Ibrox, you know, that, you know, they're all greeting and all that. Oh, I'll be the, and then all the players, Peter reading that. Oh, this is what a stadium. It's just not going to be the same without it. And that, and then it's like, oh, actually, we're not going to close it. We're not going to demolish it. Like, oh no, that's good. That's good. Just there was a kind of finality to all these articles that I've written to that. No, that piece I did for Sky Sports. It took me 3 months to put together. There's a kind of finality to that kind of demands the place gets demolished. But if you love Goodison that much, surely you're happy that it's staying open. I just wish we knew that kind of, you know, it's that kind of. I'm sponsored by that kind of thing, that kind of awkward. We thought it was all over, and it isn't really. It's just back, starting again, and ruining all the emotion we put into the big send off. And that's kind of my name's Alec Anderson. You know, changed my pitch up, smacked my pitch up, and that's kind of. I think what would have happened if Barry Ferguson had stayed on as manager. But I was in the kitchen yesterday. Believe it or not, I was making a snack. You know. At me, I was actually in the kitchen making a snack. And when was it? Was it 5 o'clock or something like 4:30? The news was announced. It's around about tea time. And so it's Sky Sports News. I'd left it on Sky Sports News as well. Or my wife was flicking through the channels or something like that. And I'm through the kitchen, and she just shouts through in her squeaky wee voice, you know, just a woman's voice. What use is that for it? She's shouting through, going, "That's Barry away. That's Barry away. That's what that's Barry. That's Barry away." "Oh, that's Barry gone," she was shouting. But first, I thought she said, "That's Barry got it," or like, "Barry's got the job." And my heart kind of sank. I got a wee fright, you know what I mean? And that's I'm going in there going, it's like a relative you don't like has been dying for ages. You know, somebody says, "That's," you know, I think that's them fully recovered. You know, oh, what? No, oh no, it turns out they've actually died. All right, that's fair. I can mourn them properly. And that's no what I mean. I love Barry. I do love Barry. Just the idea that he was going to get the job. I think that was the wee tester when I heard he's got the job. I'm like, what? So any doubts we could have had that, or that I would have had personally, that I thought Barry should have got the job. No, it was sorted out in that moment. I realised I really didn't want Barry to get a job, and yet that doesn't mean, as I've been trying to say since he got the job, doesn't mean to say I did not want him to succeed in the job, and I think he did in general terms. He definitely succeeded in that short-term job, and it seems maybe a lot to put into what is an overblown caretaker manager period. But this is the Steve Davis stepping in for 2 games between Michael Beale and Philip Clement taking over, and one of them being an absolute disastrous European result, one about the worst in our history, away to Aris Limassol. But he did cuff St Mirren, something that Barry hasn't managed, and Philip Clement was seriously struggling to do as well. Steve Davis, and it was quite pertinent, was it, that Steve Davis, our last caretaker manager, was in the gantry that night, 24th of February, was it, at Rugby Park, when Barry first managed the team properly, 2-0 down, very early doors. Thought it was going to be an unmitigated disaster, and I felt heart sorry for Barry, but he took off in Ciala and he turned it round, and he never really did anything particularly. There was a few poor results, but 15 games he was in charge, and I think generally he performed absolutely solidly. And as I've been saying all season, this is why I'm not going to go into this in too much depth. I've been saying it to you all season, folks, through all these podcasts. It's just my thing with Barry was I wanted to avoid any disasters under him, and that sounds cruel. It shows a lack of faith I had in his management ability, and I've been pleasantly surprised. I've loved the fact that he's stepped up, just being that Rangers figure. The thing you got when Walter Smith come back, for example, a wee taste of that. With somebody that's like, he is the club. He embodies the club. He knows the club so well. This isn't going to overwhelm him. It's actually, I think, life overwhelms him when he's not, front and centre at Rangers. So it was a great thing to watch. I think it was a really singular kind of period, a singular episode, an emotional episode in Rangers history. Something that you'll kind of hang on to in this world of who's the new manager, who's the chairman, who's going to be making all the signings, things like this are really what football's all about as well. Just these little periods, kind of out of the norm. When Barry Ferguson came back and was Rangers manager for 15 games, he won 6, he drew 5, he lost 4. So that's a pretty decent record. 4 Europa League games and, last 16 then quarter-final. So that's pretty impressive. 11 league games. Of the 4 games that he lost, 2 of them were in the Europa League. One to Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, in the process of eliminating them. We put them out anyway. The other one was in San Mamés, the season-ending defeat in San Mamés against Athletic Club Bilbao, who are a heavyweight in La Liga. A historic heavyweight and a heavyweight this season in La Liga, which is a tremendous league, a real quality side, so zero disgrace in that whatsoever, especially when the officials were against us that night as well. That's in what other games? That's 2 he lost. He lost at home to Motherwell and at home to Hibs in the league. Poor results. The one at home to Motherwell, I think at that point you're still blaming it on Clement. He'd had the win against Kilmarnock midweek before that, Barry, in his debut. His first home game was against Motherwell, and they beat us 2-1. So 2 poor results and 2 defeats that there's nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. The 5 draws, well, one of them was against Athletic Club Bilbao at Ibrox, one of my proudest nights. The Rangers supporter I thought were fantastic that night because we were down to 10 men early doors, down to 9 men by the end of the game. Again, officials not giving us any help that night at all. And I say, Athletic Club, a tremendous side. Firm favourites to beat us, and I thought we were immense that evening. I wanted to draw with Celtic in the league, which meant Barry was going to lose neither of his games against Celtic, which was tremendous for him, tremendous for us, a really romantic thing. And Celtic champions by a mile, so and the reigning champions as well, so there was no disgrace in that draw there. What else did we have? We did draw up at Pataudry when we basically fielded the reserves and we were down to 10 men. Some dodginess, you can debate a few decisions in that game as well when we equalised with 6 minutes, 20 minutes into injury time to deny the Aberdeen fans the celebrations and to deny Celtic fans that were set up to celebrate the title all afternoon. That was nice. That was a good laugh, that one. So really you're just looking at what the draw away with St Mirren, and St Mirren haven't lost a top 6 game. They've not lost any of their top 6 games. They've been a credit to themselves, Stephen Robinson's side. And drawn away with Hibs on Saturday, where really we should have won. We should have gone 2-0 up in that game. So again, officials not helping them. No disgraces there whatsoever, as far as I can see. And the 6 wins, well, that includes beating Fenerbahce in Istanbul, beating Celtic at Parkhead. That first night against Kilmarnock, 2-0 down. We win 4-2. It was great. And there was a lot of worry that it wasn't going to get a home win at one point, and even then that record was a bit misleading. The Queen's Park defeat under Clement, followed by, well, we won at Tynecastle in between times, but then the following week we lost at home at St Mirren. It was clear the whole thing had gone, the whole Clement project, there was nothing to be redeemed there. He had completely lost it. So Barry inherits that, and there's a kind of hangover. There's naturally going to be a hangover from that. I think the players definitely started to find it difficult at Ibrox for a while, and Barry was slowly improving their form at Ibrox, but eventually he ends with kind of 7-1 aggregate win over the old firm, over the new firm in his last 2 games at Ibrox. So he's been an absolute credit to himself. He's done really well. Although I thought it's really interesting what Ross was saying in last night's Jersnet podcast. He came up with the angle. He was saying how he's noticed, and this is the thing, I don't follow the media, the mainstream media. I don't read the newspapers or anything like that, and I'm maybe not reading. I'm not on Twitter just now. I mean, I'm on Twitter. Everybody needs to be on Twitter, because if you want to contact anybody in life, and I will go in there for a bit of gossip, and there's certain updates that you need to get through Twitter. But because of Musk and all that, I'm dead against it. I think it's just like Andrew Tate and all that on Twitter. I've been through all this, so I try to avoid it as much as I possibly can. So maybe not being on that, I'm not getting the full chat all the time. But Ross was talking about how the Daily Record seems really primed all the time with the stories. It is the stories, is what's happening with Barry at Ibrox before Rangers released them, and I think he feels it's probably Barry that's using his mates in the media, and his mates in the mainstream media were definitely, and he's getting asked the question all the time by Sky, by the BBC, and by the various kind of news agencies and the newspapers at the press conferences continually, are you up for the job? It was kind of set up. When Barry took over, it was very much, he's just here to the end of the season. He's here to not only take over from a manager who has been sacked, but to kind of hold things down until this takeover goes through. The club is in the middle of a takeover, so we just need a placeholder. And I actually think all credit goes to Patrick Stewart, because it's worked to perfection. Barry was never. It would need to have got us into the Europa League semi-finals, and really probably won just about every one of his league games in charge, to have seriously made us think he should get the job. But when you could look at it and say, well, his records, it didn't make them any worse than Clement. Philippe Clement had never won a post-group stage knockout game in Europe in any club he's been in charge of. But it's quite a thing by Clement to get us through to the stage he did, to get us into the last 16, 2 seasons in the trot. That was impressive. But Barry's improved that. He's got us into a quarter final, and against Jose Mourinho, who's basically about as great a European manager as you can get. And his very first European match as a manager, Barry beats him. I mean, we scudded them. We scudded them all ends up over in Istanbul. And a great night, even though we lost on the night at Ibrox, the penalty shootout was a glorious night. It was so exciting. It was a magic moment. So I'll always thank him for that. I'll thank him for a first win in 4 seasons, 5 years at Parkhead. That's much needed. So why shouldn't he get the job? Because he's inherited a squad that's not his. What if he was going to get the money to spend on his own players? Surely he would improve things. I just don't think any of us feel as if he's got the managerial experience. And it's, he managed at a lower league level. Celtic Hearts, Clyde's, I think it was Blackpool caretaker manager at one point, Alloa Athletic. It was over a year or 2 years since he'd managed anybody, and he's been doing this ambassadorial role at Ibrox. But I think it's either going to be all or nothing with Barry, the way he's talking. But I don't think that's enough for what we need from a modern Rangers manager. And I think it's also a big dose of new manager bounce. It was a lovely change. Clement, people start to hate Clement. They hate any manager who's in charge and isn't doing the business. That's why I feared so much for Barry. When he was, the idea he was going to start struggling in the job, or Celtic were going to win the league at Ibrox, or Celtic were going to give him a scudding, or we got an absolute mauling in Europe after one of these really decent sides he came up against. That's why it was so great that never happened. But new manager bounce. I think it was he comes in and he's so familiar. We suddenly started seeing Clement, particularly after the Queen's Park defeat, which he didn't get. You could see that Clement did not understand what the Queen's Park defeat meant. You saw it in the press conference. It took Ronnie Espen at the PA to tell him, you shouldn't be here. This is you can't do this at Rangers. You can't lose that game and then remain as Rangers manager. So to have somebody who's suddenly so familiar and all the associations, the glory days in which Barry Ferguson played, and despite the fact that Walter Smith had to let Barry go back in 2009, you get this as one of Walter Smith's. Walter Smith gave Barry his Rangers debut, and first brought him in to the first team, and then had to deal with him when he lost his discipline in 2009 as well. But it was just that kind of a son of Walter type thing, and all the associations with Barry and Derek Ferguson, and it was a lovely thing. It was like a kind of security blanket, and it was nice. It was nice, and it never went completely off the rails. It never went wrong. But I think it's very much a case of new manager bounce, and it would have faded something fierce over the summer. I don't think he's got the level of anywhere near the level of education in football management that would be required to take on the job of Rangers, and it would get chewed up by the Rangers support. It would suddenly become, why did we keep Barry on? And the man who'd been a hero for a few months as interim manager would suddenly become a villain of a kind of, it would take a severe slagging, and I would hate that. So I think Ross talking about, I said it myself, after we finally won a home game against Aberdeen, I instantly, hypocritically started noticing that Barry was kind of talking himself up for the job. He's been asked the question in press conferences, but he was kind of talking himself up as if he's still a candidate. I hoped it was to keep the players on their toes. I'm still here, I'm still the manager, I'm not down in tools, so they shouldn't, kind of thing. In a situation where there was nothing really left to play for. So I was hoping it was just kind of good management, but I think there was a definite element of that. And I totally understand what Ross and a few other people have said about Barry's. It's becoming a bit unseemly, I said. I want him to stop it, and I think that's offset for me. That is offset by the fact when he came out and said he doesn't want to manage anybody else. I think, for example, himself, Griggs, Dodsey, Neil McCann, they could walk into the Kilmarnock job. I don't know if the Kilmarnock job has been taken, sorry if it has been, but that's just ideal for them. They could walk in there and do a great job. They should have a go at it, as far as I'm concerned, if they're football men. But Barry's a Rangers man, first and foremost, and I think that level of loyalty. John Gregg said the same thing. Wasn't interested in managing anywhere else. It was Rangers or nothing. Different era though. But I think that level of kind of almost sacrifices. But if Barry did turn round, that offsets for me what I'm saying is the kind of slightly unseemly pushing himself for the job. And I also think, why shouldn't you push yourself for the job? But if he's selling secrets to the dressing room and that to make money from columns and this kind of thing in the Daily Record, well, that's a bit unseemly. That's not to be applauded in any way. But I would say that is the one thing that's offset by that offsets that kind of accusation is the fact he doesn't want to manage anywhere else. The commitment to Rangers was a lovely thing to hear and see. And I think if he did take a job somewhere else, it'd be like, all right. Although I'm saying I think they should do that. They're obviously that good. Barry and his team shouldn't deny themselves the chance to manage somebody else. It would be like, your wife, if you I'm probably going to die before you, Hen, but it'll be you'll probably just mourn me for the rest of your life, won't you? I'll mourn you for others. Oh, I'll not be getting married to anybody like Julio, the travelling Jehovah's Witness who came to the door, and so I'll not be seeking these folk out to marry them or anything like that. But no, I'll be heartbroken. It would be a kind of slight sense of betrayal now that you said it, So, I just want to thank you very much, Barry. Thank you to Griggsy, Dodsey, and Neil McCann. It was an absolute honour, and I think you did a fantastic job. So that's us. That's all I want to say, because I think the club will soon be appointing a new manager, for the sound of things. I just want to kind of clear the decks emotionally. I'm going to watch the Europa League final on Wednesday, same as yourselves, and I'm going to watch it with some pride. I think because we've been out in the quarterfinal as opposed to the semi-final, there'll not be too much regret. I've got over it. I'm not going to be sitting there going, if only. And I'll take real pride in the fact that Rangers totally lived with both of the teams that are playing, and both of the finalists, with Spurs and with Manchester United at the business end of this competition, for which they are now playing in the final. I know that Man U and Spurs are basically having it's a relegation playoff almost, isn't it? They're the two teams directly above the relegation zone in the English Premier League. But I think that just shows the depth of quality of money, the level of money that there is in the English Premier League, and what we're up against when we play any club. Manchester United they've just unveiled plans for a 100,000 capacity stadium. They've got players they could sell for between 50 and 100 million, quite a few of them, any point, worth more than the whole of Rangers, and Spurs not far behind it with their 60,000 capacity state-of-the-art stadium and a really rich money-laden squad. So that we drew with Spurs at Ibrox and really should have beaten them. That we took Manchester United all the way to injury time at Old Trafford, and I think we were falling to bits, in terms of fitness, and the players were having to put on the park and move positions, etc. I'm really, really proud of us, and I'm going to watch that Europa League final and just enjoy the fact that Rangers were so heavily involved, and Barry's played at the latter end of that competition, and Barry's played a massive part in that. It's a review of the season. People will be doing reviews of the season just now. I would just say, as I was saying on Saturday, all the pods I've done, I've been reviewing the season as the season has gone on. You could probably just sum it up by, I personally, when John Bennett made his statement nominally about the Copeland Road stand, normally at the beginning of the season, apologising for the fact that the Copeland wasn't ready for the beginning of the season, and it was only 4 games that we had to go to Hampden instead of Ibrox. But he went on to other matters about the player trading model, and Philip Clement just kind of hinting he had to give him a contract extension to get him to stay because the problems at Ibrox with the playing squad, and that was so much deeper than Clement had been given to believe when he took the job. I think it was obvious, and that was as close to an admission you could get, that this season was going to be transitional at best. And I think it was basically an admission that the only way this club is going to suddenly be competing with Celtic, regularly competing with Celtic, taking trophies off them every season domestically, was with a major cash injection. I always thought it was going to take until the 2030s, maybe 2032, 20 years after the financial collapse of the holding company in 2012. That would be the point we could get ourselves back on an even keel. And we're heading towards that with our regular European appearances. But the only way we could make it faster, we could speed that process up, was major investment. And I think that's what John Bennett was saying. The club has just got to the point where we're just treading water. We're just having to sell players to stay afloat. There's a bunch of businessmen who love Rangers but don't have the depth of wealth to take us to that next level, to put into the squad, to throw away in the squad, really. So my expectations were really low, and in that case, for a squad in transition, even a Rangers squad in transition, the Queen's Park defeat, and I went into it in great depth on Saturday, it's the worst defeat of my life probably as a Rangers supporter. That was unacceptable. That went right below the expectations that we had, even the poor expectations I had for this season. And the Europa League campaign went way, way above it, astronomically above the expectations. And I think the rest of the campaign, the rest of the season, has been just medium, just on the level I was expecting, really. Big Phil, regular contributor to the feedback under these pods. I think I've just quickly read a post from him saying that we scored less than 2 points per game on average this season. I think it's 75 points after 38 games played in the league. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable for Rangers, but I think it's what I was expecting. I was expecting us to be healthily behind Celtic, but also way above whoever was in third place. So I'm neither disappointed nor happy about the league form overall, and to have a right to have the kind of whip hand over Celtic in head-to-head Old Firms. That's a bonus as well. So really, it was neither delighted nor overly disappointed with individual games. Yes, both extremes of emotion apply. Individual competitions, yes, but all in all, just exactly what I was expecting. John Bennett, I think, was fronting up as best any Rangers chairman can in that situation at the beginning of the season. So all credit to him. And yeah, I'm just quite happy to see the back end of that season, although I really miss us being in Europe. Player of the season, Václav Černý. For me, it's Václav Černý. I think Igaman has been more spectacular at times. Nico Raskin has been spectacularly, putting together spectacular runs of performance, and he's getting to a level where he's definitely our best player just now, Nico Raskin. But in terms of consistently going out there and giving us that 7 to 8 out of 10 performance, every reliability, it's Václav Černý. He's just led the line, or held us up the other end of the park, made us a threat. Other players have played off him. His quality's never varied. He couldn't handle the fact he'd played so many games. I don't think he's coming back next season. So probably maybe for third season in a row, my player of the season is the loanee. I thought Abdallah Sima was phenomenal last season. He was brilliant anytime he was involved. You can see the quality. And Malik Tillman the season before that. So this loanee that we keep getting in every season, to renew his contract next season, the same quality, that'd be absolutely fine. Černý for me is the player of the season. where it is, I think Igaman, Nico Raskin, and Cyril Dessers could probably be second, joint second, maybe third, anyway, in the player of the season. Well, it's just for his sheer persistence and consistency. Goal of the season, I think that the goal we scored against Dundee United, the third goal we scored against Dundee United the other night, on Wednesday night, was a thing of great beauty, which I didn't even notice at the time. I saw the final pass and the finish, and I thought, that's a great goal. I knew it'd been kind of worked from one end of the pitch to the other, but it was only when I saw it on television, I was chatting to people at the time, as I was saying my immediate post-match reaction pod, I missed the build-up, and it was bloody phenomenal, but it's proper end-of-season stuff, and, it won us the game. It got us the point, and it confirmed Barry as having won 2 straight home games, which was great for his interimship, but not meaningless, never meaningless, but I prefer these goals when I prefer my favourite kind of goal. I think a lot of people, obviously, Rangers' official player goal of the season was Igaman at Parkhead. That was a fantastic strike, but it was assisted by Celtic players falling their arse, etc. And it was a great moment to get a win at Parkhead this season and make sure there's no long unwinning run at Parkhead hanging over us when we go into next season with a clean slate. And it was just great fun. It was just bloody great fun, as was the celebrations. But I like a goal that's a team goal, but I don't like flowery overplaying it as such. I like as much of that team goal to be tackling when tackles need to be made, passes when passes need to be made, and the skill is all in, the accuracy of the passes and the skill of the finish, etc. I like it to be a team goal, but also quick moving, no fanning about. So it should be arguably the second goal we scored at Parkhead that day. I think that was a better goal for me. Diamandi puts it away, but the interception by Yilmaz and just moving the ball across the park to the other wing and the ball in from Tav and the flick on from Nico, who's already scored. I thought, and it's going to Parkhead again. The season's pretty much over. It's even then it was a fairly dead rubberish Old Firm game, but hadn't won at Parkhead for so long. We just took the game to them and changed the dynamic. I think this will really affect Brendan Rodgers next season. It's a build-up of stats. This season, it's not going to look well if we can win the first Old Firm game back at Ibrox next season. It's going to put Rodgers under pressure, you would hope. But I feel as if it was a tremendous goal. That's a kind of goal I really love. But I have to say, there's no way of getting away from it. No way I'd want to get away from it. Even though it was a defeat on the night at Old Trafford. Cyril Dessers scoring Rangers' first goal in 5 matches in European competition against Manchester United. Our first ever goal against Manchester United in European competition. That in itself might be enough as somebody who's brought up, with British football, somebody who's brought up watching Match of the Day, etc. all his life, and knows that Man United are, definitely the darlings of the English media, and probably at times the biggest club in the world, at times the third biggest club in the world at worst. But the goal itself, you get Tav, the captain, the legend, the much maligned legend, who's had to move into centre half during that game. The fact we've got Finlay Curtis on the park, Bailey Rice has had to come on. We started without Diamandi, who's been electric in Europe. John Souttar wasn't playing, he's been really great in Europe. And was it Balogun had to go off injured? Leon Balogun had to go off injured, and that Robin Propper's in there as well. We end up with Leon King having to come on the park at the end as well. It was, I know Manchester United have had a poor season, a poor few years, but they're still Manchester United. And that's the ball from Tav, a thing of beauty. This isn't a long ball game, and the way Cyril Dessers has taken that ball and spun on it, and the ramrod straight down the diagonal finish into that bottom corner in the All Blue Rangers European kit. Even though it's the home colours, and what it did to me, just physically, the feeling, the depths, the joy came from and went to, that can never be taken away. It's just a moment that seized you, gripped you utterly, and it's a kind of high point, I think, of that brilliant European campaign. That's my goal of the season, big Cyril Dessers at Old Trafford. Anything else to comment on the women's team? Much sympathy to Joe Potter's women's team, losing out in the league title last day of the season at Ibrox, losing to Hibs in a head-to-head for the title, but of course because Glasgow City won, Rangers actually dropped to third in the SWPL top flight, and that means they don't even qualify for European competition. So it was devastating all round, and it brings out I think it's my sexism. For example, I found out about that result. I had to go and do other. And this is the thing. I've seen Rangers women's team once at home to Benfica in Europe. I just had to go and see them. I've seen the Scotland women's team 2 or 3 times. I've seen France against Sweden at Hampden in the quarterfinals of the Olympics. I mean, a women's game, but also went to 2 or 3 men's games. So I can't call myself a massive fan of the women's game, but I didn't have a brother. That's how I mean Dave that I worked with. Just we are brothers. It was my sister, and I used to play football. My sister make her play football. My wee sister, and she played with our college team. Like, she was a goalie, the college team, and she used to come to football with me every now and then. My gran and my Aunt Louise, they're the biggest influences on me when it comes to supporting Rangers. And I went to my first game with my aunt. My first European game was with my auntie. It was with her as well. My auntie and my uncle both times, but I'm there with my auntie, and she's the one that definitely got Rangers into me. And my gran as well, just in a less direct way. So it's women are the big influence in my life when it comes to football. But it's that thing where yesterday I saw it in Heart and Hand, just on the Twitter account. I was looking through Twitter or whatever. I think I was trying to see Frankie was retweeting the Gersnet thing. Because I like to retweet that to publicise Gersnet. And I saw Heart and Hand just saying, bottled it. Absolutely garbage. They've shot out playing them at Ibrox, absolute disgrace. And I thought, man, that's the ladies. That's the ladies taking away. Don't tell them, but is that me being more sexist, patronising, whatever? You just, it might be treated the same way. And I've been in the company of my wee cousin, my auntie's daughter. I've been to Lennoxtown to see her playing for Aberdeen ladies. She's from Ardrossan, but she went to uni up in Aberdeen. She went to college not up in Aberdeen, so that's why she was living in Aberdeen. But she played for Aberdeen ladies against Celtic women at Lennoxtown. So I went to see her playing. I saw her playing when she was a wee lassie as well against Hibs for Kilmarnock ladies down at Ardere and Stevenson. And I've been in the company of women's teams and all that, and it's no place for the faint-hearted. I'm not trying to think, but I don't know. It's one of those. It's like standing up and giving a woman a seat on the train or the bus. It's that kind of. It's sexist, basically. But you don't want to know something. Sometimes you don't want not to do it, and other times you just know I'm going to look like a patronising old bastard, really. So it's a difficult one, but my instinct, I just always remember because I spend most of my time watching men's football, and it's because I don't have the time to go to so many women's games. I've just got to decide what football I'm going to watch, and it's always been the Rangers men's team and the Scotland men's team primarily for me, and the Ardrossan Rovers men's team. That's been the ones I've had time for. I remember, so the women's game's always something that I thought, I'm interested. I'd like to have the time to go and see that. I like sometimes watch the Roundup programme on BBC and just see like Dundee United are using that ground across the road from Tannadice. That's where the women's team play, and Aberdeen are playing at Cove, and I find all that very interesting. I wish the Rangers women's team would use Auchenhowie. I've never been in Auchenhowie. I've never actually been in the gates. I've never been to a game up there. Youth team, reserve teams. The women's team used to play there, see it on television, and that one wee stand. But you should expand that so they've got their own actual venue, as far as I'm concerned. But what would I know about it? I just remember the World Cup in 2019. 2019 Women's World Cup, and over in France, Scotland had lost to England the first game, lost to Japan the second game, both really tight. I think they lost both games by a single goal. But if they won their last game against Argentina, they could go through, and it was played at the Parc des Princes. It was at the Parc des Princes. It's such a romantic venue. I don't mean that it's women, so I just mean if you've heard me talking about the Parc des Princes before, Rangers played their first ever European tie, ended at the Parc des Princes, a playoff there, and the first European Cup final was played at, about the Parc des Princes in Paris. And Scotland are playing there, and they're winning 3-0. Like quarter of an hour to go, they're winning 3-0, and you can hear Flower of Scotland going in the crowd, and I'm sitting there going, all the years watching the Scotland men's team fail in major tournaments. Just watching a Scotland team out there doing this, it was beautiful. It was amazing. And then Argentina pull a goal back. And then they pull another goal back. And Scotland have got to win. And the 94th minute of the last kick of the ball, it's a penalty. And of course it is to Argentina, and they score it. And I was in tears. If Scotland's men's team, who I go and watch, I'm going to go and watch them against Iceland. And same with Rangers men's team, when they lose games like that brutally, I'm not a crier. I save my tears for moments of joy, and there's plenty of them. But that night I was just devastated. I was devastated, and it wasn't a patronising, sexist way. I was just, know the women, know the lassies as well. I think it's because you're older as well. Everybody just looks like the Rangers team look like wee boys, and the men's team and the women's team look like wee lassies. It's just no fair. It's no fair. No, them as well. They shouldn't have to suffer the same way as the men's team does. It's got a total Scotland way of just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, and I was devastated. I thought maybe this is just me being patronising. It's what they've, I don't know, but I felt so bad. It was a horrible day for the women's team. I think the women's game, it seems to be, I know it was on the go long before the SWPL was set up, but it was like 2003 or something that was set up, and it's Glasgow City. Now, if you equate it with the development of the men's game back in the Victorian period, Queen's Park winning like 6 of the first 9 Scottish Cups. I'm sorry to mention Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. And then the professionalism comes in and they start fading away, and the veil of other teams in the Vale of Leave, or Vale of Leave and Dumbarton, Renton, their powers start to wane as well. They're the first kind of professionals that take it away from Queen's Park, and then Rangers and Celtic come along and just boom. It's an irresistible force that takes over. Glasgow City are the Queen's Park, you would think, of the women's game, but it's a league. It's the women's game being developed in the 21st century the way it is. Leagues are the competition. The Scottish Cup was on the go long before a league system in Scotland, but for the women's team it's always been leagues are the primary way of testing who's the best in Scotland, and I think they've won the thing. There's been like 22 or 23 SWPLs played, and the women, Glasgow City have won like 16 of them, and Hibs have won 4. And Rangers and Celtic get interested in about 2006, 2007-ish, and just come in there, boom, old firm, we're going to come in and just start. Rangers and Celtic have won that league once each. Glasgow City are not letting go. They are not letting go, and neither are Hibs either, who'd won the league once. I think it was 1904. I think Hibs won the league before winning it 3 times. The men's team before winning it 3 times in the kind of 40s, early 50s. But it's Hibs women have won the title as many times as the men's team. Hibs men's team have won the Scottish title. It's a really interesting thing to watch. So Scotland, they're playing Iceland. The Scotland squad was announced today. We're playing Liechtenstein as well. End of season friendlies. Steve Clarke was announcing today that he's struggling for goalkeepers. He's saying I'm struggling for goalkeepers. Liam Kelly. There's a guy, you got Robbie McCrory for Kilmarnock, he's got Slicker from Ipswich Town, and he's Angus Gunn seems to have moved to Unterhaching, or unattached. That's his team, unattached. And you're thinking, get Liam Kelly in there. Oh, just because he's playing old first team football for an Old Firm team, that's him. Well, he's picked Kieran Bowie in, who's just scored against an Old Firm team on Saturday. He scores against Rangers, bang, that's him straight into the Scotland squad. So no worry about that nonsense. But when I go to see Scotland against Iceland, it will be my 95th. I don't do the do a deer stuff. I don't wear the kilt. I'm not into the whole kind of tartan army stuff. Don't worry about that. But when I go to see Scotland against Iceland, it will be my 95th Scotland international against. Footballogy tells me I've done 935 Rangers games, men's first team games, which I think I've actually done more than that. But it's basically I've been 100 times more, 10 times more Rangers games than Scotland games. But I'm trying to get to 100 Scotland games, and I can stop and get 1,000 Rangers games, 30 games a season. So I'll be able to stop before I'm 60. Then I'll stop annoying you by going to live football. But it's quite funny. It's going to be Iceland. I'm going to see in my last personal game of the season, and that was the game. Barry Ferguson and Alan McGregor were giving it the twos up, and so really kind of disgracing themselves, And I remember that, and Walters had to sack Barry, nearly sacked McGregor as well. He took his medicine, but Barry, Scotland captain, Rangers captain. Walter having been manager of Scotland, assistant manager of the under-18s and assistant manager of the under-21s as well, Walter, so it meant a big deal to him. And Barry had to go, and I thought at that time, how's Barry ever going to find a way back? How's he ever going to be able to repair that? Just that, what he did at the end of his Rangers career, how his Rangers career ended. I couldn't properly enjoy his legends, but just like he used to do when he was a player. And it looked like all our strikers were completely marked up, and he's got the ball in midfield. Barry managed to find a way. He managed to find a way, and it's been a lovely thing to watch. And I want to thank him and Griggs and Billy Dodds and Neil McCann for their service in the last 15 games. Right, that's it. So listen, I just want to say a massive. Oh no, I did a massive thank you stuff on Saturday, didn't I? I was trying to give you a less than half hour pod to, as a way of saying, but that's not going to happen. I just, well, how did Quinn Martin do it? How did Quinn Martin did he do a kind of no, it was music now, wasn't it? He did the epilogue thing. I'll be back. We're going to be announcing stadium upgrades and new players are coming in. I think the new manager's going to be imminent, so I need to get back into doing the pods here. But I think I'm just going to go in. I'll have my tea. I'm going to have that rotisserie chicken. I was going to have it Sunday because I knew it was going to be on Jersey. I can't really. I want to properly enjoy it. So this is my Sunday day, and I'm going to watch the Mastermind Grand Final. This the University Challenge one that was last Monday, wasn't it? The final there. Yeah, it was quite weird the way they had Ian McKellen presenting the trophy like in a different place. Like they couldn't present the trophy straight after the final, which is a great final. But University Ian McKellen, he presents the trophy. Something I thought that was a bit weird, but that's going to be. That's Mastermind. This University Challenge is cleverer, so it got there quicker, it got to the final quicker. But it's going to be Mastermind Grand Final tonight, so I'll watch that and I'll maybe be back just to see you later. Just